Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Premier League check-in podcast on potentially the busiest 10 days for a football YouTuber or pundit in the entire calendar. There's EFL three-game week, there's Champions League, but we are focused in on the top division in English football with the great Matt SB. Good morning, Matt, and welcome on this crazy week.
Good morning, Ben. Yep, we're still going. We're still trying to plough through the week. Lots of football to talk about and some good results, actually. Some really interesting results, big storylines. So, it keeps us going, doesn't it? And I'm looking forward to talking about it today.
Let's get straight into those 10 results in the Premier League. Spurs 4, West Ham 1 in the early on Saturday. Fulham 1, Villa 3, Ipswich 0, Everton 2, Man United 2, Brentford 1, Newcastle 0, and a very smash and grabby 1 from Brighton, fair play. Southampton 2, Leicester 3. More of that, I'm sure, later. Bournemouth 2, Arsenal 0. That deserves a wow. Wolves 1, Man City 2 in the 95th minute. Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1, which was brilliant on Sunday. And we had Monday night football as well. Forest 1, Palace 0, which I'll tell you why I was quite pleased about later in the show. But I think you can all figure out why as we head towards Matt's moment. Who is your focus this week on, Matt?
Difficult decision to make this week, Ben, because like I say, there's some real standout results. I do want to pick up on Nottingham Forest last night, by the way. What a win against Palace. It puts them up to 8th, by the way.
Sensational.
Yeah, but we've touched on Forest a couple times. So let's move to another team in the East Midlands. And I want to start this bit by getting everyone in the comments with a quick yes or no. Are Leicester City staying up? Because I wonder, after the last two results, if some people, including myself, might have changed our minds. Because, Ben, obviously, we focus on the relegation sandwich. We like looking at it and working out who might be involved. And one thing I think we've both said over the previous weeks is any team that gets a win, and in particular, back-to-back wins, will go zooming up the table and just look where they are in the table now. There's a gap forming between that bottom four and the teams above them. So it's really interesting down at the bottom here. I'm sure it'll change. It's still early in the season, but let's talk about Leicester and give them credit because it was the manner of that victory at Southampton as well, Ben. These games, we had Southampton, Leicester, we had Ipswich, Everton. As a neutral, I'm thinking, I don't want draws. I want some spicy results. Obviously, we can come on to Ipswich later, where they didn't even manage a draw. But
mate, I think I would have taken draws given what's actually happened.
Yeah, in hindsight, yeah, I agree. But that Leicester City scoreline was unbelievable, wasn't it? Because you're looking at how the game's playing out. Southampton go 2-0 up. They're actually playing some good stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, right, they are finally going to get moving. And this, I don't want to say it's all over just yet, but this did feel a bit do or die for Southampton. You felt like both needed to win, but the pressure was certainly more on Southampton to win as the home team and as the team that hadn't won yet. So for Leicester to go out and come back, and not just come back to level it up, but to go on and snatch it. I know towards the end they were playing 10 men, shows what this team could be about this season. And, to put two wins together, like I say, they've gone zooming up the table. There's quite a few things that are making me look at Leicester City now and think, I think they've got a real chance of staying up. Obviously, they're the best performing of the newly promoted teams from the Championship in terms of the table and the
by
results.
A mile as well.
Yeah, because they're up to, is it 9 points we're looking at now for Leicester City?
Yeah, so they've gone over I'm sure you're about to mention it, they've gone over the point per game. It's nine points from 8 games, which is over double what Ipswich have got, and obviously 9 times what Southampton have got.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Because so we've got Southampton next week. They're playing Man City, so you struggle to see them making a move next week. So that win for Leicester was so significant. Obviously, we'll touch on Southampton later, where it is a disaster. But yeah, like I say, there's a couple of things now where I'm looking at Leicester City and thinking, wow, okay, so they're not getting a points deduction. That was one of the factors why we probably thought they might go down. Steve Cooper has really proven his worth. I know there was some criticism from Leicester fans and some Forest fans, not all of the Forest fans, but some of them were saying, I don't know if he's the right fit for Leicester. But honestly, I'm really glad that it is working out for him. And like I say, he's doing so well and proving some of the doubters wrong. I think some of the criticisms were that he's very defensive, doesn't go out and attack a game much. But as you can see by the scoreline here, they're scoring goals. But also, Ben, we mentioned last time when they beat Bournemouth, they kept a clean sheet in that game. And any team down at the bottom that can keep a clean sheet, that is massive. And you've still got the likes of Jamie Vardy, who even at his age will still pop up with goals. And if you're scoring 3 away from home, you've got every chance of winning the game. So very impressed with Leicester City. And it helps that at the same time they're doing that, 3 or 4 teams at the bottom are still not moving.
Yeah, and I've got to say, take a bow, Stevie Cooper, because it's a bit old fashioned now, Matt, having a what I would call a tweaky manager who, moves the chess pieces around in the games rather than just is focused on their process and their patterns of play, which a lot of managers are. Stevie Cooper is like that. And when you think about, I think of this like, like a prison movie, an escape from prison movie where someone is going to make a sprint for the fence first. And it's Leicester, isn't it? And back-to-back wins. And it's all about taking your chances when you get them. And we'll speak about Southampton and Ipswich later, but I've been at 2 games where Ipswich have been in the games at home, playing well, where you think, oh, just win one of those games, against Villa. I know we're talking about Villa, but against Fulham as well, you think, win the game. And both of these games that Leicester have won, they could have drawn or lost those games when you look at the numbers fairly easy. I have a very unfair advantage on this one, Matt, because you may have noticed the co-commentator on this game was Sam Parkin, who sent me a lovely voice note summing up the whole thing. We talk about Southampton. Apparently, they weren't that bad, and there's a big penalty call as well. So I'm not calling Leicester lucky because that's just insulting. What I'm saying about Leicester is in situations where it could go left and it could go right, and right is 3 points and being 14th in the table, they've gone right twice. So you've got to say fair play, Leicester. And Matt, as you framed it, and you can have the final word here, with the snail racing at the top, I was joking on the Blue Monday podcast, that's Leicester sorted for the next 4 or 5 weeks. They're just probably not going to be in the bottom 3, even if they lose all their games going forward. Back-to-back wins, massive, Matt. Have the final word. Well played, Leicester.
Yeah, sometimes it's fine margins, and turning a draw into a win is massive because, like you said, they're above a point per game, but we don't even think you need a point per game to survive. You're probably looking at 35. It could be even lower this season. Who knows? So that ability to turn a draw into a win is massive. If you do the maths, how many wins do Leicester City need this season? Possibly 9. So they've ticked off 2 in a row here. Obviously, that's 9, takes you up to 27. Sprinkle on 8 draws, and that's 35 points. That's my maths there. But yeah, like you say, with the teams moving so slow at the bottom, Leicester City have given themselves respite. But if they can continue this, they could really be like stretching their legs. I mean, obviously, some people will be quick to say if 2 of the teams in the bottom 4 win next week and Leicester lose, the gap closes a bit. But if it goes the other way and Leicester win and those bottom 4 don't move, they could be out of sight soon. I do want to say, Ben, really looking forward to Friday. Leicester versus Forest. Steve Cooper versus Nottingham Forest. I'm not sure how to call that. I mean, I suppose Forest higher in the table. They've had the better start, been good away from home. But Leicester City moving along nicely now. And like I say, with that win, with the manner of the win, with the 98th minute goal, they'll come into this with real positivity and maybe some momentum to take something against Forest. So, yeah, well done, Leicester City. And right now, I think you've got every chance of staying up.
I'll just say one more thing, and it's a doomsday scenario for me because the game after Forest for Leicester go to Ipswich, and they will be thinking, even if they draw that game, I know, look, if they win that game, they're going to be thinking, right, you've gone away to Southampton, tick that off. You now have a home game against them. You're stacking up your 9 wins or your 8 wins or your 10 wins, whatever it is. They can do the same at Portman Road. I know this one's circled on both clubs' calendars, isn't it? But if they can do the same, then you're almost writing the obituaries for the other teams already, aren't you? So, yeah. Fair play, Leicester. They are Matt's moment this week. We will clip that out and that will go down Match channel. So I will say, if you're watching over there, do come over to the Benjamin Bloom Football channel over here and check out the whole of the Premier League Check-In podcast. When it comes to Worldy of the Week, Matt, I need to say, pull your finger out to the Premier League stars and the guys in the comments here, because you're going to need to decide for us in the comments. Because Matt, not a vintage week really. What do you think we should go for?
Yeah, in some weeks we've been spoilt for choice, but this week I wouldn't say so much. And some people will be like, "I know there was plenty of good goals, and that's fine." But we're looking for Worldy of the week. We're looking for someone putting a bit of swaz on the ball from 30 yards. It goes in the top corner. I had a couple of contenders. I really like Ollie Watkins' header for Aston Villa against Fulham. He does really well there. Garnacho's volley for Manchester United was really nice. Rashford sort of guides it over, and Garnacho, like I say, on the volley, puts it in at the back post. But I'm going to go for Ryan Christie, and it gives us a good chance to talk about Bournemouth and a great win against Arsenal. Obviously, I know they were playing 10 men for quite a bit of the game, but they took full advantage. And the goal itself is really nice. Corner played short, laid off to Ryan Christie, and he still has quite a bit to do with all that. With all those bodies crowded in the box, he puts it right into the top corner. Lovely finish, and that set them on their way for a great victory.
Yeah, we see it a lot, don't we, now, with everyone has like multiple set play coaches. What I really liked about it, Matt, is the kind of subtlety. There's not much, you can't put too much on the little flick back to Christie, can you? And you're right, you've still then got to execute the shot with the ball moving and, probably, 15 bodies in between him and the goal. And so easy to get a block on that. I know people will argue that, so easy to get a deflection and it to fly in anyway. But just quickly on Bournemouth, Matt, as well, when we'll go on and talk about the relegation zone, they just never enter the conversation. And this is a Bournemouth team that, against one of the two elite teams, maybe we'll add Liverpool in. We'll talk about Liverpool, actually, right at the end of the show. Even when with the advantage of 10, you can still lose that game, and they go ahead and beat them. So Bournemouth, we mentioned Forest, maybe unlucky not to be Matt's moment, but Bournemouth too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, full credit to them. What a massive win. I suppose we maybe take for granted that we've grown accustomed to the fact that Bournemouth are not near the relegation zone. And that's just testament to how well they're doing as a club and the manager, Iriola there. And you think they lost Solanke as well, and they're still doing so well. So full credit to Bournemouth. I have absolutely no worries about them being anywhere near the bottom six, if anything. And they should really be looking up the table, to be honest. They seem very ambitious. And like I say, what a statement win. So, congratulations, Bournemouth. We'll see where you get to next.
Yeah, well said, well said. Right, here comes my favourite and least favourite bit of the show. Let's talk about the relegation picture. Okay, let's check in with the bottom of the table, Matt. And we have an informal rule of thumb about not talking about teams that are a point per game or more, which at the moment now, we may have to change that rule, because that means we're only talking about 4 teams, and everybody will have noticed a 4-point gap going in already between 17th and 18th place, 16th and 17th place, in the table, with Everton obviously going to Ipswich and winning. Look, we've spoken about various doomsday scenarios involving, maybe 3 teams get adrift at the bottom. And me, as a fan of one of the teams who's in that mix, you want as many as possible. But at the moment, it is, with Leicester's kind of break for cover with the back-to-back wins, it is 4 teams down there, still with the idea that Wolves and Palace could make a break for it, but they are marooned in there at the moment. Let's work from the bottom up. Wolves still on a single point. And Matt, we didn't expect, any points to go on the board, frankly, when you're playing Man City. And I'm just looking, is that all comps they've got on FootMob there? Okay, let's take out that EFL Cup game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defeats in a row, and they are conceding multiple goals in all of these games as well. But given the nature of it, can Wolves actually take anything that they took Man City to the 95th minute? And now we go to a run where their next 3 home games are Palace, Southampton, and Bournemouth. What's your take on Wolves? Can you get any positivity about taking City so close to the wire?
Yeah, they're going to have to because it's gone. It's gone now, and they're going to feel really raw after how late that goal was for the next couple of days. But once they've had time to sort of reflect on it and realise how close they came, and with the knowledge that, okay, they've got Brighton away next, which is also difficult, but then the fixtures do get nicer, if that is such a word in the Premier League. So I would say to the Wolves fans, it's given me more hope for you. I know you've lost the point you nearly had in the last minute. I mean, we were talking on the Sunday. I think we were like, "Oh, it'd be typical if Man City snatched that." And yeah, you got to feel for Wolves. I know it was a typical Man City dominating, Wolves hanging on, but they nearly did get out with a draw. But like I say, the fixtures will get a bit kinder. But the position they've got themselves into now, they do have to go out and get the wins to close that gap now. But yeah. It's as good a defeat as you can get, if that makes sense. I know, obviously, the manner of it, with it being so late, is painful, but they have gone toe to toe with Man City and held them. The only thing is with Wolves, I just think they do look that little bit fragile. I know this was an improvement, but it's late goals. They always seem to concede late goals. And defensively, their numbers are really not good. I suppose 2 against Man City is not that bad, but it's the other
No.
games. 6 against Chelsea, of course. So they go to Brighton. It looks a difficult assignment, but after that, the fixtures get a bit kinder. But like I say, the pressure's on. They have to start winning.
So we talked about the Leicester side of Southampton 2, Leicester 3 earlier in the show. Just absolutely disastrous for Southampton, this one, where you're looking for the first win. Again, it's a home game against a fellow promoted team, and they have now, Southampton, played Ipswich and Leicester at home and basically conceded the same goal in stoppage time to both sides, albeit Ipswich's one had a bit of a deflection on it. We did acknowledge that at the time, but you can just understand, Matt, Southampton fans thinking, "Oh my God, this is the worst. I hate this. This is done already," because it just feels really hapless. And from being 2-0 up, and okay, yeah, Fraser probably should have been sent off for the denial of obvious goal scoring opportunity, but there was one up the other end, which was I think it might have been Ayew who then didn't he go on and score the winning goal as well at the end of the game. So it just feels like, I don't know, somebody in the football universe is just sticking 2 fingers up at the poor Southampton fans every moment. But of all those sides down there, and we'll talk about Palace and Ipswich in a minute, but with Wolves, there's form for them not being near the relegation zone, and the same with Palace, and Ipswich have had some good performances. Of all the teams down there, Southampton has got to be the toughest one at the moment, hasn't it, for those fans?
Yeah, this is brutal, Ben. It's really brutal. Yeah, like you say, it's the same goal. I mean, they can play well, Southampton. I'd be interested to know what the Premier League table would look like if football was just a 60-minute game, because Southampton seemed to do all right for quite a big portion of the game. Against Arsenal, they went 1-0 up. Against Ipswich, they were winning. Against Leicester, they were winning. But it's towards the end of the game. I don't know if it's the game management or what, or they just seem really vulnerable. But like you say, it's the same goal. It's a corner that comes in, edge of the box, and they don't deal with it. By the way, I'm comparing that Leicester goal that they conceded to the Ipswich goal, for those of you that don't know. So, yeah, they got Man City away next. And I look at that, if I was a Southampton fan, I'd think it's kind of like a lose-lose, because if they go there and play terrible, they lose 4-0. They could go there and play really well, go 1-0 up, but still probably lose as well. So, oh, bless them. I just really struggle to see a way out now. I don't want to seem too doom and gloom this early on into the season, but like you said, these home games against the other newly promoted teams, you cannot not win both of them and concede late goals in both of them. Yeah, I really struggle to see anything positive for Southampton here. I'm sure after the Man City game, there might be one or two nicer fixtures, but they haven't won yet and just looks so fragile as well. I suppose that's a theme down at the bottom, isn't it?
So, Crystal Palace, we've been sat here kind of, well, certainly I have, Matt. I don't want to speak for you, put words in your mouth. We've been sat here kind of thinking, okay, Palace will start winning soon enough, won't they? They're brilliant at the end of last season and they're, got very established Premier League quality. But they're not. And it was another defeat. They actually haven't scored in 3 of the last 4 games. Lost at Forest last night. I still have it in my head that they'll have a decent run, and by decent run I mean they'll probably win, say 3 games out of 7 or something like that, and throw in the odd draw or two. Then they're more than capable of doing that. But there's still that idea that if Palace were to do something silly and maybe at boardroom level here and make a bad call and then compound that with another bad call, that they could stay in this bottom 3. I'm not seeing it, Matt. But what's your take on Palace?
Yeah, I think with Southampton and Wolves, I've said they look fragile, whereas Palace, I think they've got more quality, and it just seems like they're not quite clicking. It feels like they're not far off because they lost 1-0 to Forest yesterday. I don't think they were outclassed. If anything, Sells in the Forest goal had a really good game. He made a few good saves, and Palace could have come away with a draw. The week before, they lose 1-0 to Liverpool as well. That's not too bad. They're in these games. And if you look at the Premier League table, the goals against column, Palace have only conceded 11. All of the teams above them, Ipswich, Everton, West Ham, Leicester, Brentford, up to Manchester United, have all conceded more. So I think it's gonna come soon. I know it's gonna be frustrating for those Palace fans, and they're looking at the table thinking, "Oh, we're getting cut adrift here." But I think it will click eventually. I know they've got Spurs at the weekend. That could be interesting. They're at home for that one. It feels to me like they've got the players. I know good teams could go down, and if they keep losing, eventually, they'll be in a position where it's going to be difficult to turn it around. But I feel like they're close to getting something, and maybe Palace are one of those streaky teams that once they get 1 win, they get 2 wins, and they could move away. But I know we'll come on to your team in a second, Ben, and Palace slipping up for now is just keeping them above water.
Yeah, but you want to be out of the bottom 3 on your own merits, not other people stinking it out in the same way. By the way, Matt, November the 2nd, Wolves v Crystal Palace. That is the same day that Ipswich play Leicester. And I've just looked, Southampton play Everton on November the 2nd as well. It's like completely mental. Everyone down in the bottom sort of 5 or 6 playing. In fact, that might be the entire bottom 6. It is actually, isn't it? Oh, other than West Ham, because obviously Leicester have moved up a place. Hey, you could get a favourable West Ham result, and that could be the bottom 6 all playing each other on the same day on November the 2nd. Look, I've gone chapter and verse on Ipswich, obviously on the Blue Monday podcast. So we'll get your take on Ipswich now, Matt. But it's been a really poor couple of games for Ipswich. And do I want to use the word outclassed? I don't know if I want to use the word outclassed, but they didn't lay a glove on Everton. And it just looked like a team with lots of Premier League experience, an experienced Premier League manager, lots of quality, relative to a team that was in League One 2 seasons ago. And, a work-a-day, straightforward win. And I don't know, Ipswich have been fairly, sort of fizzy and at it in the home games, and a bit of a worrying one. Ipswich need to get their mojo back. They go to Brentford next, and then there's that big home game against Leicester. But very worried now, Matt, that it's 4 at the moment, that it could go to 2. And I'm talking about Ipswich and Southampton. If Wolves and Palace get their act together, and you've got 2 marooned at the bottom, but Ipswich need to pick back up to what they were doing in the home games against Fulham and Villa. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to ramble on. I'll give them my take. What's yours?
That's all right. I was enjoying listening. Yeah, I think we've said with Ipswich, haven't we, Ben? Let's deal with it game by game. First two games, very difficult. They lost them. Okay. Next four games, some really good draws. And it felt as if they were building towards a win. And we kept saying, we'll see what happens next week. I think now, after two defeats that really weren't good and don't look good on paper, we can start to say this is not going as well. Certainly, there's been some good draws and good performances this season, but now it's you need that next win because the table is starting to show that you haven't got a win yet. You're just above. I mean, the position Ipswich are in now, they're still above the bottom three. It's like I don't know. It's like you've gone out to the beach and you're floating out into the ocean gradually, but you're reassuring yourself that you're on top of a float. You're all right because you're above the bottom three, but you're actually getting further away and you're just above the bottom three. But like we said, if Palace get a result soon, or Wolves could string some results together, and that gap's opened up now. So Ipswich, I think they have to go out and get one win in the next two.
Well, they've got a real Leicester in, haven't they?
I think it has to be that way around. Yeah.
If Ipswich can keep parity with Leicester next week, and the gap stays at 5 points, and they beat them, then all of a sudden you're within a game of Leicester, aren't you? Sorry, but carry on.
Yeah. No, I don't want to put it past Ipswich that they can't get anything at Brentford. I think obviously Brentford will be the favourites and Ipswich haven't looked as good away. But if they go there, decent game plan, maybe they could get towards the end of the game with their hand on 1 point and that'd be all right. And to be honest, even if they can if they got a draw from the Brentford game, they could close that gap to 3 points. So then it feels like, oh, we're within one game of catching up to these teams. Once it's 4 points, that'll take obviously 2 games to close the gap. And the Leicester game, with the results Leicester are putting together now, they're putting the onus on Ipswich to beat them. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, we might have thought, I don't know, if Ipswich draw with Leicester, would that be okay? But now it's really starting to feel like Ipswich have to beat Leicester. Because, credit to Everton, by the way, a good win at the weekend. But they've been down there in previous seasons. They've had some poor results this season. And you thought to yourself, if you're an Ipswich fan, I know the Premier League's not easy, but this is one of the games where you might get something at home. So I was disappointed. But yeah, once again, as a neutral, really looking forward to the upcoming fixtures. I mean, like you say, is it the 2nd of November? We're going to have a relegation sandwich buffet by the sounds
of
it.
That's a relegation club sandwich, that, isn't it? A massive plate of it with chips on the side. So
can't wait.
let's round this out then and say I think the best credit we can pay to Everton is to say we ain't talking about you anymore until we feel the need. But I do worry about this segment, Matt, especially if we get 4 teams turns to 3, turns to 2, etc. I mean, look, even if it turns to 2 going adrift, we've still got to talk about the third person in the underneath the red line. But get your views in the comments on the Premier League relegation picture. And definitely, I think we'd all agree, Leicester, the massive winners the last couple of games, and Everton as well, moving nicely up to a point per game. We'll clip that one out for the Benjamin Bloom Football channel, and you can check the whole podcast on this channel as well. Right, we'll just quickly wrap this up, Matt, by saying the mouth-watering matchup really has to be Arsenal versus Liverpool coming up. I think, is that the it might be the 4:30 TV game. Yeah, so that should be really, really good. And it's weird because if you had 2 teams at the top and one kind of chasing, you wouldn't have had it in the order it is at the moment. Liverpool top, 21 points. Man City second, 20. Arsenal 17, but home game, and they'll be looking to reel Liverpool in, and Man City will be sitting there going, okay, go on then, who's dropping points then?
Yeah, no, very good point. Like I say, there is some big games this weekend. Leicester Forest, obviously, I mentioned that earlier, but this has to be Arsenal-Liverpool. Liverpool have started the season like a train. They're moving along really nicely. The onus is definitely on Arsenal to win. They have the home advantage, and they lost last week, but going to be without Saliba. I think both are playing in the Champions League this week as well. We'll see what comes of that as well. But you're right, Manchester City will be rubbing their hands as they play Southampton at home, watching Arsenal-Liverpool taking each other on. Not sure what to think of this. I've definitely been more impressed with Liverpool, but Arsenal have built themselves up nicely over the last couple of seasons. You think to yourself, if Arsenal lose this, they could be quite well. Liverpool could be really stretching ahead of them, and I don't know that those gaps can be hard to close. Once I don't know, 8-9 points is the gap.
Oh God, we've seen it in these title races where it goes to 3 points, especially when Pep Guardiola and Haaland and De Bruyne are concerned. And you're like, well, you ain't catching that up anytime soon. It'll take you 100 years to make up 4 points on Man City. So, yeah, looks like a really, really good one. And I just from my childhood when I first started watching football in the late 80s, early 90s, this was the game. Arsenal, Liverpool, before Man United's dominance, before Mourinho and Chelsea and Wenger at Arsenal. I'm talking about George Graham Arsenal here with my age, but it should be absolutely, absolutely brilliant. Guys, thank you so much for watching the Premier League Check-In podcast. Matt, do you want to give a plug for content going down your channel? And do you want to speak about the Coventry channel as well, if we can get some people heading over that way?
Yes, so obviously Matt SB is my channel. Predictions galore, covering Coventry losing every week. And also we've got Cov TV now, which is a second channel to talk more defeats for Coventry City. I'm going to try and get Ben on there. Obviously, we're enjoying collabing this season. So check out Matt SB. If you've got 2 seconds, check out Cov TV. Get over there and you might see more of Ben as well.
There we go. Get involved over at Matt's channel, and Coventry have been very good for very many years. So let's hope they can weather their way through a pretty rancid start to the season, it has to be said. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be back. We'll be doing more collaboration stuff with League One, actually, with the 3-game week. So you can see us together on Matt's channel. We're filming this on Tuesday, so that'll be on Wednesday. Tomorrow that will go out and we'll be back if you just want the Premier League stuff next Tuesday. We'll see you then.